You know, I've never really taken myself as someone who gets burned out. At least not until I started my tabletop RPG, Arcane Ugly. It's been a big project, and well, I've had to learn a lot, but I've also had to learn a lot about myself as well. One of the biggest things I've been doing is trying to understand how my brain works. I've made a fun little diagram. Come have a look. So this is how I visualize my brain in two halves. This creative side, it's all about creative problem solving and embracing the chaos and loving the flaws in your work and what makes it human. On this other side, I have everything order. I love structure and I love creating workflows, and unfortunately, I also love perfection. Just about everything I do, my brain up here is on this side, like 90% creative and 10% order. For better or worse, this is where I'm happiest. Except with Arcane Ugly, it can't be this way because this project requires a lot of order. All right, creative part of my brain, structural part of my brain. I've got to make magic spells. The creative part of my brain says, Trent, you could make any spells. We could be making spells all day long. You have so many ideas. It's so much fun. Structural brain's like, hold on. Okay. For a start, we need to look at every single RPG that's out there and then work out what all those RPGs have in common, work out what spells are shared across all these games because they're important functions that you need to have in your game. You need to acknowledge that there's a sleeping spell and a leaping spell and a flying spell, and the creative part of my brain is like, it doesn't really sound like very much fun. But structural part of my brain is like, Trent, listen here. This is what we'll do. You take all those functions, all those keywords, and make a lot of index cards over a couple of afternoons. It's fine. We'll lay them out on the table. We'll trick creative brain into being like, hey, look, you can take as many of these cards as you want and combine them into new spells and transform what we know is important functions into something new. And at least we've acknowledged everything that exists that way. Creative brain is like, yeah, I guess that sounds okay. I did that. I did exactly that. I made all these cards, laid them out on the table, and I made about 20 spells. And then it stopped being fun. But I thought, you know, creative brain's probably just a bit tired right now. We can try again tomorrow. Came in, looked at the table, looked at all the cards on the table, and I was like, nah, I'm doing something fun today. Went upstairs, did some art. The next day, came in, looked at the table. Yeah, today's another art day, went upstairs. Next day, came in, and that went on until I didn't do art. I just sat upstairs and I just procrastinated, feeling guilty. I wasn't using this whole system that I created, this whole way of problem solving. You know, I've made the perfect solution, why aren't I using it? So I sat there just feeling guilty for a really long time, feeling really down about myself, trying to get my friends and stuff involved in making the game so I could feel like I'm accomplishing something. But really, I was just avoiding the job that I'd set for myself. And that's what it was. It became a job. The point wasn't to make cool spells. It was to remove all the index cards from the table. Structural part of my brain was like, yeah, this is the perfect system. We know everything that needs to be known right here. You just need to do the work. It wasn't the solution, and I shouldn't have held myself to that if it wasn't working. I refused to remove the cards on the table. I started working on top of the cards. But no matter what, I was like, no, there's no way I can remove these cards because I haven't got the job done. And then I was reading about Mordheim. Mordheim is one of my favorite games in the whole entire world. And I was reading about what made Mordheim so cool. And it's unlike all the other Games Workshop games, they didn't start with rules first. They started by making things and adding rules to it. Not worrying about balance. They would just make cool characters and cool weapons and cool rules that would fit in this weird world that they'd created and playtest it later, try to fix it later. And as a result, the game is horribly unbalanced. But that's not the point of the game. What's so famous about that game is the stories and the narrative and the flavor and how cool that game is. And I'm happy if Arcane Ugly is like that. It doesn't need to be the perfect balanced game like structural part of my brain wants it to be. It can be cool things that I'm excited about, and then we can play test it and see what works and what doesn't work. And that's why I think it's really important that I release this publicly so you can start play testing it and just having fun with what I make rather than me making assumptions of what the final results are going to be or how it's going to play. Do you know what I mean? One thing that has helped me overcome burnout is understanding that in my brain, in order to accomplish a task with lots and lots and lots of repetitive steps, I need to present myself with new challenges in order to reach that goal. I need to be constantly re-stimulating my brain so I don't get bored. So at the moment, I've been working on a bestiary, and I was really struggling to draw more monsters. I did some in pastels, and then I figured, well, maybe I should illustrate some of my kit bashes. But I got bored of that because I ran out of my favorite kit bashes. So I started kit bashing images. These are all public domain images from tapestries and medieval books and border illustrations, and I've hacked them up, cut them out, slapped bits together, and painted and drew on top of them to make something new. Obviously you could do all this in Photoshop, but I think actually doing it in a physical medium and just trying to make everything fit and drawing on top of it really transforms it into something else. What else have I done? You might have noticed I was referencing this image while I was working on this piece. This piece is meant to represent the night sky of Arcane Ugly. I figured, what if there were no stars and instead it was all magical energy like the Northern Lights or something. But this is a piece I actually created in KidPix, which is like a kid's like Photoshop that you get given in primary school. I thought, let's go back to basics and start playing around with old technology. Anyway, and that's what inspired this image, and also all those images up there. And also an image that I used on a turtle illustration that Rachel did as well. Yeah. Okay, welcome to my problems. So one thing that's really helped me with overcoming the burnout that I felt was writing down my problems. And that way I could go through them one by one and find creative solutions for them. And it also means that I wasn't feeling super overwhelmed by having all these problems running around in my head. They're all written down. All these problems are totally solved now. Feeling really, really good about them. Would you like to hear some solutions? Okay, one big problem that I was experiencing was magic. Initially, I wanted to make like 200 spells. That seemed like the standard across all the RPGs that I love, but it turned out that was a lot of work. What I should do is just make the goal 100 spells, but instead introduce 3 tools that I'm really, really excited about. The first one is a treasure item that's a spell book, and it allows you to combine 2 existing spells together to make a brand new spell. I know, I would be absolutely like ecstatic to receive that. And I'd be searching forever to find like the 2 perfect spells to marry together. Another treasure item is another book which allows you to record the results of a miscast and turn that into a magic spell. I've also overhauled the miscast system, so in theory, there should be some really, really crazy, maybe even infinite number of results that you could get to make really cool spells from. It's going to be wild. And it also means that in universe, it really makes sense that people are trying to harness miscast, really excited about exploring the miscast side of magic in order to create new spells. And that's why you have all these like old spellcasters that are horribly disfigured or mutated because they were trying to find interesting miscast effects. The third thing is wands. My wand system didn't work because when I was writing new spells, it meant that I felt so limited to make sure that they worked with every single wand type possible. Now, the language of the wand rules is a lot more interpretive. It's just like all spells cast through this wand now have the fire attribute or have a fire theme or whatever. So with those three things, with 100 spells to play with and a theoretical infinite number of miscasts, you can make some really wild stuff. I'm bloody excited. We can get to some of these other things a bit later on. Oh, I'm getting old. So one thing I've been a little bit insecure about is world building. I think I'm pretty good at surface level stuff, but when it comes to making deep, rich worlds, I sort of struggle. So I'm using that to my advantage, and I'm building a tool, which I think is something I'm good at, and giving the power to you, the players, or the group that you're playing in. To do that, I've made this. This is a node. Nodes establish rules in a region in Arcane Ugly. This big magical contraption can make things like the creation of black powder is impossible, or in this region the sun never sets, or islands float here, or everyone speaks the same language. When you make your first group in Arcane Ugly, you can have a session 0 and you can be like, okay guys, what's the rules of the region that we're playing in? Do we want to have like a steampunk world? Does everyone get granted a goat when you start playing? I don't know, but that's what this is. I'm pretty excited. All right, listen up. This is the #1 thing that helped with my burnout. And it was the advice that I got from basically every single person in my life that cares about me. And it was this: Trent, you gotta rest. You bloody gotta rest. Take a break. And, you know, like a lot of the heroes that I've had, a lot of my bestest friends, they all have this like very like hustle mentality. To do the things you love, you've really got to grind. You got to do the things that you don't want to do every single day. You got to work when you're miserable so you can enjoy the best parts of the job at the end of the day. And I definitely tried doing that for quite a while. And I wasn't very happy with some of the things I was making. When I didn't feel very good, I sort of felt a bit like emasculated a bit too, because it's like, you know, all my, you know, it's very macho, you know, you got to like work. And when it didn't really work for me, I just felt sad. I felt really insecure about that. And I think happy life is all about balance, right? And I've realized I was burnt out because I wasn't taking very good care of myself. I didn't have very good balance. And something that I'm still constantly working on, but I feel way better now. And I feel better now that I've rested, to be honest. And it wasn't even that long. It was just a few days, you know. And when people tell me to rest, like I picture like this, like, no, how could you take, you know, my work away from me? But, you know, what's a few days when you come back, you know, 3-5 times more productive? You want to do what you want to do, you know? It's good. Feeling good. What do you want to work on now? I just want to clarify that rest has to be done guilt-free. That's the qualifier of rest, you know? It has to be guilt-free. It's important. Something else I'm experimenting with is collage, which is sort of fun. Experimenting with different textures and images and marbling and yeah, just trying to come up with some interesting images to use as backgrounds for miscast tables, because tables by themselves look sort of boring and they're all going to be different shapes and sizes. So I figured I better make some cool background images for them. Oh God. Okay, so I look a little bit mad at the moment. I've just woken up, but this is my new to-do list for Arcane Ugly. to get everything ready for the first public release. It looks like a lot. I have shrunk down quite a lot of goals and made much more achievable goals, or made goals that I can just present the best of what I have already. Like 40 spells, got way more than that, but let's just do the best ones. Way more than 60 item cards, but let's just do the best ones. 12 creatures, I don't have that. That's the one that makes me nervous. Okay, let's make that 10 creatures. Now, one thing that I really struggled with last time is letting people help me when I feel stressed. Because when I feel stressed, I can't think clearly to be able to delegate tasks to people. So this time, before any work starts, I've marked everything that can be delegated to other people. So I know which tasks I should be doing first, things that can't be delegated. And also when people are like, hey Trent, I know you're really stressed, would really love to help you. I've got a bunch of stuff you can do, and it would change my life. Okay, I need coffee. So I just wanted to extend a massive, massive, massive thank you for everyone that's been supporting Arcane Ugly, basically from the beginning of time. It's been incredible. And last episode was really amazing. All the support on that, all the brilliant comments and ideas, all the people that bought the Three-Eyed Cat posters and the Skull of Mutations apparel and supported me on Patreon. I don't know, it's like baffling. So the first week of November is when the first public beta release, I guess you'd call it, playtest release, is going to be out. So I'm really, really excited about that. And I've also made this guy into a poster as well, because I love this piece so much. And not only is it very representative of Arcane Ugly, but also maybe a bit how I feel as well. Yeah, I don't know. It's been so cool. So thank you very much for all that. Look, we're on track. Big to-do list. So it's 6 a.m, let's do some work, and I'll update you shortly. Okay, thank you.